So in this video, I'll talk about a Visual Basic function I made where you can put in the data very similar to what the Excel IRR function does. So I call this public function NPV like IRR. Takes in a rate as single, cash flows as a range, calculates the NPV like the IRR does, and it does a limited number of cash flows. So I do dim to create a variable, num cash flows is integer, so calculate number of cash flows. Dim I is an integer because I'm going to have to loop to do this function. Dim present value is double, and this will be what I wind up returning back to Excel. First thing I do is I check, make sure the user put in an interest rate that's percentage, and if it's not, then I make it a percentage. So if the rate's greater than or equal to 1, then I make the rate, I divide it by 100. So then I assign the rate to be rate over 100. To get the number of cash flows, I count the number of cash flows using cashflows.count. So cash flows is a range, and I can count that since it's a range. Initialize the present value to be 0, and then I do for I equals 1 the number of cash flows. The present value will be assigned to the whatever the present value was previously. So I initialize at 0. So for this first one, it's 0 plus whatever the cash flow is in the first part of the array, so that first cash flow. And then I divide it by or discount it by 1 plus the rate, caret I minus 1. So the first cash flow is the initial outflow, and just like IRR, it treats it as the time 0 cash flow. That's what I do here in this particular function. So 1 minus 1 is 0. So 1 plus the rate raised, anything raised at 0 power is itself. So that's just the initial cash outflow. And then I go to the next I until I've got all the cash flows. So then the NPV like IRR is equal to the present value. So change that. This is just now the present value, so that'll return it back. And then I end the function. So fix that here. And then we'll go back to Excel. And then in this particular example, you can see, and I checked it with the NPV function. So the NPV function in Excel, what's going on here? So let me zoom into this. What's going on here is you have to put the initial outlay on the outside, and then it starts at time 1. Whereas my new function I created will get you the same answer. But now what you do is you just put in the discount rate and then comma B4 to B6. And this works just like the IRR function. Of course, it returns just the rate, so you just put in the values. But that second piece is what my new NPV function is doing here.